And we are now live. How you doing, everybody? It's me, Christopher and Bennett, filling in for Omari Newton on The Working Actor. Today, they are back on the eve of the NBA draft. We have drafted the entire Mindset team to come on board and talk about the state of the performer's mindset in 2020. And as we go into 2021, welcome to The Working Actor, everybody. If this is your first time on the live stream, it's really simple. We'd love you to be a part of the chat and the conversation. If you click the chat button down below, you can jump right in. Let us know what you're thinking about the conversation, your experience. Share with us what your thoughts are, good and bad. We give the entire log to the entire Mindset team, and they're going to get to go through that. So please absolutely be as candid. They're going to be really candid today in the conversation as well. If you have questions for the Mindset team today, all you got to do is go to the Q&A section, click Q&A, give me your full name, where you're from. Remember, keep it brief and clear. Like Ron Burgundy, I will read the entire question the way it is written. So that can be a good thing or a bad thing. I got to say, I'm so excited to have the Mindset team back. This was a personal, I kind of told Omari I was going to do this one because this is my favorite group to have a conversation with, and we never, ever have enough time. Today, the last chance you'll get to see them for the rest of this year on The Working Actor. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Towne, Samantha, Lemole,
either one. My Italian roots.
In Wilmington, Delaware, no less. And that city is kind of important these days. We've got Hillary Tuck, David Reale, Eric Hunicutt. Guys, the Mindset team, welcome back. It's so great to have you guys. Thanks for coming today.
Christopher, it's such a joy to always see you. Your hair is game is happening today, so it's very impressive.
Thank you.
Hello to Omari. Sorry we missed you today.
It's actually his birthday today.
Happy birthday, bud.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. We may have to do a happy birthday for him after, and I'll send him that clip. I know he'll appreciate that. Guys, it's so great having you. And there's so much that I wanted to do and talk about today. There's a lot I wanted to dive into, and I want to go right to it. Give me a second here. I want to set something up for a question that, and I'm not leading you to the answer either. I think I'm really curious what each of you think. I want to look at a couple critical dates here. I was really thinking about you guys coming on the show this week, and I was trying to identify what I think were the most significant moments in the history of acting as a profession over the course of history. And so in my own research and my own thinking here, critical thinking, we start back as far back as about maybe 530 BC, and we get our first Greek performance, Thespis. As you probably know as an actor, this is where we get the first actor, if you will. And if we fast forward a couple thousand years, in 1888 in Leeds, England, Louis Le Prince gives us the first film, Roundhay Garden Scene, and it's considered the very first motion picture that's ever recorded. So now acting has moved from stage to a screen, and an audience can experience it in a really profoundly new way. Now, if we jump ahead to the 50s, talent agents, I consider that a critical moment in the profession of acting because they become a critical part of the commoditization and the democratization or the economification of acting. That's a word. And this is an important one. It is now, the economification. Method acting you get in the 50s. And then from there, you get Stanislavski, classical, Meisner, Chekhov, practical aesthetics. You get Uta Hagen comes along, Viola Spolin, all these really important breakthroughs that evolve the craft of acting. You get bigger agencies in the 80s, which become a part of an even larger opportunity to expand what an actor can do. We get to the 90s, you get to the internet and the self-tape. Thank you, Casting Workbook and Susan Fox. We pioneered it first. We did our part for history.
We did.
And then you jump to YouTube in 2005. The actor can now go direct to their audience. They don't even need a network contract. They can create content and act and perform and share with their audience directly. 2007, Netflix and streaming, now 3.5 billion smartphones in the back of your pocket. The actor has the ability to be seen by that large an audience instantaneously. 2018, the actor's mindset is born. And I really thought that you guys were belonged on that. And I've said that to you so many times, Joe, when we've talked, because that to me was a real breakthrough in taking something new and really helping actors understand what they can do and what mindset is all about. If somebody was brand new today, and this was their very first time on the show and they'd never had an exposure to mindset, Joe, could you start? And all of you, please feel free to jump in. What is mindset? If you were summarizing it for a brand new actor today, what's it all about? What does it mean to you?
It's a really flattering introduction to be up there with YouTube and Uta Hagen. Thank you, Christopher. First of all, I just want to clarify two simple points. The first is I believe Stanislavski might have been a little bit older than those in the group theater who went and worked with him. The only clarification I might say. And the other thing is we only use acting techniques from 1888 in Leeds, England. That's the only framework.
Right, you're a purist, a retro purist. Yeah, I like that.
Bringing it back.
Yeah.
Like a record player for acting. So for us, we feel like there's so many ways out there now to be at our best in terms of our training and our craft. There's incredible programs at universities. There's master's programs. There's, programs on camera and programs on being a holistic version of yourself. There's the musicality of comedy and everything in between. And yet there are some things that happen in the moments right before we start our work, which can either bring the whole thing to life or cause the whole thing to go off the rails. And to us, that begins and ends with mindset. Mindset as in our thoughts, mindset is in our inner environment, mindset is in a framework of our own individual process that we use. And so we've built some fun playgrounds around helping people get clear, first of all, on what their mindset is and how they can use it effectively to amplify what they're doing and mitigate the noise around what they're hoping won't happen.
Samantha, Hillary, would any of you add to that? Eric, David?
Please add to it.
I think it's pretty on point. To me, the only thing that I'll add is that to me, specifically as an actor, I feel like mindset is the next frontier as the competitive edge. I think that everyone is training their craft and everyone is training their body, their physicality. But very few people are training their mind and their mindset. And that is, there's only so many reps you can do in the gym. There's only so many classes you can take. But if you're not training your mind, I just feel like that's the difference for me right now in my industry between silver and gold, from the person who is pinned for it and the person who books it.
Right. Why do actors keep learning? Why do actors in particular, I find that over most professions, there is a constant appetite to continue building and developing their craft that I see more than in other creative professions. Even if you were to compare it to today's marketing or advertising execs, or to today's electricians, I'm picking random vocations. Acting on any given weekend, on any given day, somewhere in North America, there's a class, there's a workshop, there's a school that is teaching it. It's never, ever, ever stopping. Why is that? Samantha, Eric, what do you think about that?
I think because actors are suckers, so they get easily, no, I'm joking. I think it's because our job is to tell stories, which we've been doing since the time of cavemen. So I think it's something that continues no matter what changes in technology or what changes in politics or anything. That's our main job, and to hold up a mirror to humanity. And so wanting to constantly change, and as the landscape of our emotions change, I think that there's a need to want to work with community too, and build community, because that's what we are. We're team players, we're social creators. So I feel like that's why people look for that as well.
I could speak to that for a sec.
Yeah, go David.
Yeah, please jump in anytime.
Two things I want to say about that. When I was with my high school guidance counselor looking at college programs, I was like, I want to do all of them. And so I was already into acting a bit. I'm like, well, if I do acting, I can explore all these different lives. So I've got to have my learning apparatus open, because I'm always learning about different kinds of people to be able to credibly represent those people in the work that I do. So it's like learning is part of it. I've got to be learning lines. I've got to be learning a life, and I've got to be able to step inside that life, you know? The other thing is, like, if you're a trumpet player, you learn to play the trumpet. If you're an actor, you are your instrument. And as we grow and change and age, your trumpet turns into a tuba, then a trombone, you know, and our career can span 60 years. So if you're not in a learning mode, you're going to be handed a tuba on your 35th birthday, and you're going to still be trying to play the trumpet that you learned when you were 10.
I think that's well said, David. And on that point to an instrument, let me ask all of you, what is your thought on what is going to be the long-term, what has been and what will be the true effect of the global pandemic, of this industry shutdown that's going into its 10th month, give or take, a bit of startup up and down. The actor for the first time is not able to use their instrument, right? Or for a long period of time, they're not able to do what actors are trying to do on a daily basis. Does this have a profound impact, or is this just a byline that we're going to breeze through and get back to it? What do you guys think of the true effect this has had, and what's the long term?
Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was just going to say quickly, Eric, it seemed like you also had a thought about that last question. And before we get to this important speculation on the future, did you have something burning that you wanted to add?
No, I think we covered a lot of it. I think some of it actually dovetails nicely into this, which is I had no idea how to predict what the impact is going to be on the industry, but I know the impact on the artists is going to be profound. I mean, we're people who walk around and think about things constantly and feel things very deeply. And I think molecularly, we've been shifted during this time, and we're going to seek to tell different stories, and we're going to be asked to tell them in different ways. And I think as hard as that's going to be, you know, all those moments you cited, Christopher, were moments of like massive upheaval and change in our art form. And figuring out how we can do that willingly, with enthusiasm, and minimize resistance, I think is a really interesting question on the individual level. I have no insight into what happens to the economy of entertainment or anything like that, but I do know every artist I've talked to during this time is trying to figure out how to bring themselves to this new landscape. And I think the innovation that's going to come is going to be really awesome to watch.
Hillary, what did you want to?
Well said.
I was actually, I think, going to say something very similar as far as like, I think we just don't know yet. This is, we're not just playing in a new field, we're playing a completely different game. It does seem like this is sort of the dark before the dawn. And I do think this is pure speculation, but it seems to me that this pandemic, as far as the industry goes, will have a bit of a leveling the playing field effect, because everyone is new to this new game. And so all of us are learning. We all have the skill sets that we bring to us, but all of us are learning this new game, which I think is exciting for newer actors.
Do you guys think that we're doing it right now on Zoom, and I think there were two things I was really curious for what you as mindset teachers, as instructors, as actors believe here. One, the actor should probably for the foreseeable future be prepared to learn and to perform through the digital portals like we are right now. This is definitely one of the safest ways, obviously, they have to do it. Do we lose something through digital? Does the actor lose something in performance when they can't audition in the room? Do you as instructors, when you can't necessarily do the live workshops that you've been doing for the last few years and you have to come through this medium, is anything lost? Or can we put an end to that debate and reassure actors that that's not true? Nothing's lost at all. What do you think, guys?
Well, I think, first of all, technology is here to stay. And from what we're hearing from showrunners and casting directors is it's going to probably have a long-term impact on our first auditions. More self-tapes, more virtual opportunities up front. People don't want to drive across town in rush hour traffic. They'd rather be with their kids. So that part's going to be here to stay. So yes, absolutely, us getting familiar with technology is going to be vital. It's going to be part of the actor's tool belt. And if we don't do it, we're going to set ourselves up to be shocked by it the first time we're asked to do it and we're not prepared for it. The other thing is, in terms of what's lost, we talk about this often, and we say that the things that seem to be missing are the ability to read the energy in a room, the ability to connect with people by the water cooler or by the bathroom, reading people's body language.
Yeah.
These are things that we are missing. The ability to hug somebody. You know, we're huggers by nature, and you know, sometimes we like to go out for a pint or a bite to eat after our workshop. So instead, we spend a few moments with people afterwards virtually, because really, if we take all the things that we lose, we can distill them down to their essence, and we can still have those things. So we can still build and facilitate connection. We can still find ways to focus our attention on people even through this medium. There are definitely things that might look different in their form, but in their essence are the exact same thing. And this is something we had to do as a company. You know, Christopher, you and I had a conversation in week 2 of quarantine. And we were speculating on, you know, what was going to come next, but we were really just reacting to this huge moment. And what we did is we spent 3 months going internal, checking in on each other, connecting to our communities, seeking each other out and saying, how can we help? So there was really this internal process which dissolved our form as a company into essence. And when we decided to reach back out with some of our offerings, they were through the lens of, well, what would a form look like that includes those essences, but feel appropriate for this way of working. And we've been really fortunate to find that we're still able to build connection. We're still able to have emotional experiences. We're still able to feel like this work is intimate. And I think that other people would nod their heads to the same.
I'd love to hear from the chat room, guys. Make sure you share your thoughts. What is the big takeaway as we come out and a vaccine is on the horizon? What will be your belief that has changed for better or worse for the profession? I want to hear that as an actor.
May I ask the group about that briefly, Christopher? I had a couple of questions I really wanted to engage the chat on. So we think that however we've been doing this time is how we're going to do what's next. Whatever it is that we have been doing during this adjustment period is how we are going to do what's next, because how we do small things is how we do all things. So I have some questions for you all out there. We're really curious. What are you experiencing? Are you experiencing burnout? Like, do you find yourself more irritated or not motivated or exhausted? Do you feel overwhelmed? You know, like there's so much to do and so little time. How about disconnected? Do you feel like we do our work, but then we're worried it'll show up for us? Anxious about the future of our industry or whether we'll work again? Do we feel rusty? Like it's been so long since we've been in rooms together or have had regularity in our process? You feel irritated by how many self-tapes we're being asked to do without much feedback? Because these are the things that we're hearing from people are up for them. And if we can work on those things together, then I think we're going to be stronger for it as we come out of this. Sorry, Christopher, I didn't mean to interrupt your flow.
No, I love it. And please do that. I want you guys to, this is such a great time for you and those actors on the show watching to talk, and that's great. Samantha, maybe I can start with you. When we come out of this, is it easier to be an actor going into 2021, or will it be more difficult?
I think what Joe is saying, it depends on what you've been doing. If you have been spending your time preparing to do self-tapes at home or preparing to do Zoom auditions with the casting director, then I think that you'll be a step ahead and on pretty sure footing, because we know that's where it's going to go. But I think that if you're not prepared at all, it's going to be a little bit bumpy, you know, if you don't have that sort of setup or the person to read with or all of that, those kind of wrinkles worked through. But I think it's going to be a transition for everybody.
Anybody disagree it's going to potentially be more difficult or see it a different way? Curious what you all think about that one. 2021, what does that mean for the working actor? Easier or harder?
Well, maybe we just do how could it be harder and just sort of opposed to predicting.
Yeah, right. Like hard is the constant, right? What the flavor of hard is the variable. So I think there's going to be different I see a lot of technology frustration in the chat. So yeah, that's going to be a thing. How to send energy through a little green light in the camera has been interesting to figure out. But the logistics of performance and how to affect an audience have been challenging from jump, challenging all the way back to the Greek guy. So I think it's just what flavor it takes is going to be different and maybe less familiar. Maybe it's not about harder or easier, but maybe it's going to be a more unfamiliar year. Although how could it be more unfamiliar than 2020?
Could you prescribe, if you were like a dietitian or a nutritionist, if you were prescribing a formula for coaching and learning for an actor going into the new year, what's your read on how much an actor should be trying to get engaged with group workshops, whether they're virtual or live, as opposed to live direct one-on-one coaching? And we've talked a lot about coaching over the last few months, Joe, and I know it's an area where all of you are particularly passionate about. Can an actor, and should any of the actors watching the show have a mix of both, or is it always one-on-one ideal? What do you think about that?
It's a really fascinating question, and the way you posed it really is intriguing to me. I think two things that I'd want to highlight. The first one is, I don't believe at Mindset we use that word very often. The word should doesn't often come out of our lips because we don't like it when we should on ourselves and we don't want to should on others. Everyone has to know what they need and what they want, ideally. And so we're trying to move the needle from other people sort of telling people what to do and empowering them to make those decisions for themselves. Now, that said, what I love about your question is that it's about, where do I find clear feedback loops? If confidence comes from the way we talk to ourselves, and if confidence comes from having credible self-talk, meaning I can back up what it is I'm saying to myself, then we sometimes need a coach. We sometimes need a facilitator or a group to help give us clear feedback. And I think so often we walk out of these auditions and we're like, how do I get feedback on what I did? Casting directors are busy. My agent or manager, they're gonna fight to try to get feedback that might be pretty general and not actionable. And in my class, I'm usually surrounded by people that are loving me up. So where do I get these clear feedback loops? So from our perspective, we want to be that source, whether it's one-on-one or in a group, of both support and challenge, so that people can look in and go, okay, what do I want to do about this? What's next?
I'd love to hear from the audience too. How many of you have had the opportunity to do one-on-one direct coaching, whether it was this year or before, compared to the workshops? Both, of course, have their virtues. And as an actor, I can't imagine you not needing to have that group interaction because of the nature of the job. And yet the attention that you can get one-on-one is huge. I'd love to hear from you. And before we go on for the rest of you, I would like to hear from you on it. This is a big announcement that we were waiting to make to have you on it. And with CWB Live, we finally, like I said, it's draft day in the NBA. It's a big day.
We're trading with the Bulls.
Got the Mindset team are now with us on CWB Live. I'm going to have Emily drop a link into the chat log here. We're really excited. So if you do want to book one-on-one with the Mindset team, you're going to have an opportunity to do that for a limited time. We're going to put the dates and all that stuff throughout the show, but I just wanted to point that out. I'm so excited to have you guys, and you'll be able to do one-on-ones with people. I would love to hear from more of you on that. Talk to me about the power and the importance of one-on-one versus group coaching, and how does that dynamic work going into the new year for actors? What do you guys think?
I have a big thing I want to say, but I want people to jump in first. And if it's all right, I want to say something for like 2 minutes on this after you're done.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I've been acting since I was a kid, started when I was 13. And I've taken classes the whole time, always taking classes and coaching. Started teaching about a decade ago. I never did one-on-one coaching. I wouldn't be a coach. I didn't understand it. I like the energy of a classroom. I didn't know what I would do as a coach. I met Mindset. I met these cats about a year ago. And to me, this was the missing link. That's a bear, Joe. That's not a cat. Do your cat. There's a small bear now. Oh, there we go. There's the cat. You know, and for me, it was the missing link, because you can go into classes and there's so many great classes out there. But if you're not filling the bucket you want to be filling, you might not be getting the most out of it. And sometimes I was going to a lot of classes feeling like I suck. I suck. I'm going to go to that class and prove that I'm good. So I'm in that class trying to prove that I'm good. And so if I have a good day, then I prove that I'm good. And if I have a bad day, then I go home feeling like I suck. Where's the learning happening? And when I met Mindset, y'all taught me about, growth and fixed mindset. And I realized I wasn't in a learning modality. So it didn't matter what class I was in, I wasn't getting the most out of it. The reason why I'm excited to be on the Casting Workbook platform, Christopher, as a coach, is that now I feel like I know what I want to say to actors so much more, because I've been in classes for so long and I know what I needed to hear now. What would have helped me actually retain and grow and better my craft and better myself through all of the years of learning. And so I'm excited to be a coach. I'm excited to be working with Mindset. And I think you can learn from any situation if you get your mind in learner's mode and learn how to learn.
Awesome.
Well said, David. You're getting a lot of high fives here through the audience. Maitreya Monroe says, "I love this, David. Thank you for that." I think there's a lot of people who agree with you. To all of you as one-on-one coaches too, do you have a preference? Do you change? How do you alter the way you work with an actor in a one-on-one situation? Is it more intense? Is it subject to what the actor wants to do? Do you take more control? I'd love each of you to describe a little bit of your one-on-one coaching style in particular, because so many people have the opportunity to be able to work with any of you. And I'd love them to understand a little bit how you approach those one-on-ones. Maybe Eric, we could start with you.
Sure. I think there's a difference between a class and a coaching for me as a teacher versus coach, in that in a class, I probably have a little more of an agenda. I probably have something I'm trying to get into with a room full of people. Whereas in a coaching, I really think of coaching, like a third base coach on a baseball team, where they can see where you're headed and they're going to tell you whether you need to speed up, slow down to get to home before the throw makes it, right? I really view that role as standing in front of someone and guiding them in terms of where they're already headed. Whereas in a class, I might see a place where an artist is not seeking to go and kind of try to push them in that direction because they want to experiment there. But as a coach, I'm really, really trying to be dialed in on the person in front of me and talk to them and guide them in a way that makes sense for how they already work. Whereas in a group setting, there's a lot of different ways of working. You got to hold all those people in the same space. So for me, they're completely different energies and completely different ways of working.
How about you, Hillary? What's your approach, and what would actors expect in a session one-on-one with you?
That was so well said, Eric. I totally agree that when I'm teaching in a class, it's usually more that I have something that I would like to impart on this class. I have something that I specifically want to teach them. And then in a one-on-one, I think it's more about figuring out specifically what is tripping you up. Where do you want to grow? Whereas in my class situation, I'm saying, here's the information, and all of you may go and do different things with it. And in a one-on-one, I think it's very similar to what Eric said, dialing in and them being able to sort of pick at me for where they need help, growth, support, challenge, like them being able to I don't know, what's coming to my mind is dipping out of my well, as opposed to me dipping out of my well and serving it out to people.
I love both of those. I think,
yeah, absolutely.
For me, the idea is teaching has a little bit of a longer form to it, whereas coaching has a more immediacy and a short form nature to it. We have to get people ready to go and execute in a short period of time. So coaching to me is a little bit like directing, or a little bit like a casting director in a room, getting people ready and offering immediate tools to put it into action. Teaching can have that, but also there needs to be some sometimes some concepts introduced and opportunities to fail and grow and learn. And I would say that's how they're different. For the way that they're the same for me is that we have a very crisp framework here on how we like to work and the tools we like to offer around performance. And so the first thing that we always want to do is learn the learner. We don't want to do cookie cutter work. We don't want to say, here are the 5 steps and hacks and tips that every single one of you should do. What we want to do is get curious about you. We first want to connect to you and say, where are you? Where do you want to go? What's in the way? And if we can identify that together, then we can identify a best practice of how we want to spend the next half an hour, moving the needle 1 degree, 1% better over time. So that's what I would say are the 2 sort of things that I would introduce to the mix.
Just to piggyback on that, I feel like it's one-on-one, you get a real sense of a collaboration. And I have used to coach with people where I would walk in and just want them to tell me what to do. And for me at that time, that's what worked. I had a very fixed mindset about just tell me what to do and I'm going to go do it. But I feel like since working with this team and learning the tools of mindset, I'm so much more excited about a real learning during a coaching and a collaboration, so that the person that I'm working with gets to really figure out what they're doing so that they can, learn and apply those things to their next audition or their next scene breakdown or whatever it is.
Is it all right if I say something that's been on my mind as I thought about today? I think
Yes,
it relates
of course,
to what we're talking
course.
about. So I was sort of like using some walking and meditative time to think about what's different today that I would love to be able to share with this group who's come together to watch this. And I think the thing that's been top of mind that stands out the most is how well-meaning people are in and around our industry. There are a lot of well-meaning people out there. And the intent is to help, not to harm. The intent is to motivate, not put us in our heads. However, sometimes we find ourselves talking to a casting director who gives us a list of do's and don'ts in the room that every room will ever go into. Sometimes there's a manager who tells us we have to book our next job or else they'll start dropping people. Sometimes directors mean well when they over-explain a note to make sure they're being clear. Our friends mean well when they tell us, this job is yours, before we go into the room. Everyone means well when they say, just relax. Don't worry so much, or you'll get the next one.
Very helpful.
And we mean well when we get hard on ourselves and point out all of our mistakes and errors. We mean well when we blame others for why our audition didn't go well. We mean well when we try to lower people's expectations before we work. I just got the script a little bit ago. I'm sorry, I haven't prepared as much as I want to. We mean well when we're asked how something went and we immediately try to downplay it in case they didn't like it. We mean well when we focus on how the audition we're about to have is going to change our lives. We mean well when we tell ourselves, like when we brace for disappointment after our auditions as we wait to hear back. But meaning well doesn't mean these practices are setting ourselves up for success.
Well,
that's what's been on my mind.
I think as well too. Maybe to that point, and our meaning well, and sort of that the mindset that gets you in. I was thinking about you today, Joe, with the NBA draft going on, and there's a player right now from Georgia, Anthony Edwards, and he is likely to go number 1. And he said something really controversial in the last 48 hours. I don't know if you heard it. I know Joe and I love to talk basketball.
Yep.
He said, "I'm not really into basketball," and he almost, to paraphrase, he said, I don't really care if I go 1. I don't really care if I go 2. And this is now swept across the media. It's on the front page of every sports paper as we go into the draft tonight. And I thought to myself, is that either a really stupid thing, or did he just do something really brilliant? Did he create a mindset that allowed him to remove all of the pressure of having to go, like an actor going into an audition, and how we put all this pressure on ourselves? What do you think of that approach? Like, I think what I'm asking is, can an actor convince themselves that it doesn't matter as a technique? Is that a good technique for a profession that has so much pressure put on them? What do you think of that, what he did?
It's trying to manage attachment, expectations, and disappointment, right? And so I think what ends up happening is we try to to deal with what's coming based on past pain by saying to ourselves, you know what? Let's just pretend it doesn't matter. Let's be a little more apathetic, a little more removed. And it feels like that is a protective mechanism. And maybe it's brilliant for business, but what it feels to me is it seems like it's trying to brace for future pain based on past pain.
That's right. I think so too.
And so I think for us, what we have come to is that there's a stage when we're all young and bright-eyed and naive and innocent, and we lay it all out there and we get our first rejection. We go to the wall in high school and we don't see our name on the cast list, and we go home and we sob for hours because we really wanted to prove to ourselves that we could do this. And over time, that disappointment causes us to be like, no, it doesn't matter. It's fine. It's good. Like, I'm good. I won't care as much. And sometimes that affects how much effort we put in, because we're trying so hard to not get attached. We lower the amount of effort that we put in and how much we care and laying it all out in the field. So I think what we've talked about before is this concept of MIMA, maximum investment, minimum attachment. How do we lay it all out there for very short periods of time and then detach to the outcome, because that's the only thing we can't control. We can't give ourselves the job. We can't make them like us. We can't get them to put down their sushi long enough to care about our scene. What we can do is we can focus on our process. We can give it all we got. We can let it rip and have some fun. And then we have to manage that unknown.
Does an actor have to care or feel so viscerally attached to even the part they're auditioning for to be successful, or can they pull it off with that detachment? Is there a way of measuring how invested you are or aren't? Do you ever get into that with the actors you coach and that you work with on your workshops at all, guys?
I don't know that there's a I think the way that we measure is that instead of putting the measuring stick on did we book the job, or did the casting director laugh, or were the producers looking at us in the room, did we get a second take, did they give us a readjustment, did we get a call back, all of that, we put the measuring on. We're not looking at that information. We're looking at the internal information. Did I do my process? What did I like about what I just did? What would I do differently if I had another chance? Like, those kind of things are the things that we measure. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that to me is more the measurement of how part of how we teach people to have the maximum investment with the minimum attachment. Because if you're focused on the results, that's very different. You can be focused on the process and have investment and also be detached. I think that it's a both. You want to do both.
Can we get sciencey for a minute? Because I think you'll dig it. I think also Susan will love this because it's relating to a conversation she and I have had before. So everyone knows that there's a positive mind and a negative mind, right? Positive mind is when we're optimistic and we use positive language and we believe that our behavior matters, but also there's times that it's not so helpful. Like, I'm not going to wear a seatbelt, but I'm just going to trust I'll be fine. I'm an optimist, right? Then there's also the negative mind. The negative mind is when we spiral out of control, criticizing ourselves and others, but also it's useful when we sometimes need to be like precise about what we're doing and how to get better. So the negative mind has value as well. But there's also a third mind, and some people may not know about what it's called, but they may have experienced it. It's called the neutral mind, and it's more of a witnessing perspective like they talk about in yoga or mindfulness. And it's something that's trained, that athletes train to do, where they can assess a situation and they can state simply, here's the facts. We have 7 minutes left and we're down by 2 scores, which means we need to score in the next 4 minutes. So we need to play hurry up offense, 4-minute drill. Then we need to get the ball back. That's not up to me. That's up to our defense or special teams. And then we're going to need to probably have about a minute or 2, given the amount of timeouts, to drive down the field, and we need another score. That's neutral mind that allows us that perspective. So there is value, we think, before, during, and after to have different mindsets and different tools for different things.
And can I just say one thing? There's somebody in the comments, Akshay said that sometimes they do some of their best takes when you just say to yourself, F it, and do the take without consciously trying. And I think that a lot of people can interpret that as like detaching, not caring, it doesn't matter. And I don't see it that way. I think that Akshay didn't say, oh, I don't care about this. I think he simply gave himself permission to play, permission to have fun.
Just to jump and just do it.
To jump, permission to risk.
That's right.
Permission to play in the playground that he had created. And so that to me, so that makes total sense to me that some of his best takes would be in that, because my God, he finally gave him his creative self permission to create and to be creative. So to me, that's very different.
Well said, Hillary. I don't disagree. Let me ask you guys another one. I'm curious about this one too. If you were to Google production halted due to COVID, you would get a list of dozens upon dozens of shows, of movies, of things we know that in the middle of production, somebody was exposed and they've had to take a 2-week timeout, a 3-week timeout. I was just reading about it happened to the Batman. I was thinking about James Pattinson the other day, and that had happened. As an actor, this has got to be something that I would think is extremely disruptive and concerning. You are now walking into an environment where you not only have all of the mindset work you have to do, even to get the part, but now you're on set and you're preparing. And at a moment's notice, you could be put on a temporary hiatus and have to go retreat for 2 weeks. And this is a reality actors are going to have to face at some point. This is probably going to happen to some of you. Have you guys developed in your coaching conversations and in the workshops how an actor can best prepare for that? Like when those things happen, is the job to just wait it out and restart again? Or are you trying to keep the engine in neutral and just keep it humming so that you don't lose all the work? Talk to me about that hiatus period that so many actors are about to experience, and they have no control over that. I think that would be a really devastating or nerve-wracking thing.
There's something really interesting, Christopher, in hearing you talk about it. It sounds like a very isolating experience. You paint a picture of an actor who worked so hard and got this job, and then the job went away. And so I hear this isolated person having this problem. And there was something, Joe, when you were talking about neutral mind and you were painting the picture of, okay, there's 2 minutes left in the game. These are the facts. Here's what's going on. One moment when you said, okay, we need to get the ball. Well, that's not my job. That's somebody else's. I was wondering if neutral mind is also a doorway to collaboration and realizing this isn't a bunch of things happening just to me. I am signing up to join a team. I'm signing up to be part of a collaboration. And so when these things come down, even right now, what we're all going through, when I see people on the street wearing masks, I feel like, hey, we're together on this. And to me, that feels like a less isolating experience. And I think it's important to remember that when the production shuts down, that as an actor, that's a way bigger problem for somebody else. And I hope I can be there for them when they need me.
And
well said.
Yeah, and if I can piggyback on that, if we're talking like, because you're right, this could happen. We don't know. And I think to try and play out like the what if, like to me, that just gets me in complete anxiety. Like I have to just put one foot in front of the other and take it day by day. But as far as like, even when that does happen to me, I am less concerned because I train and continue to train my flexibility and my ability to pivot. So if I'm constantly training my mindset of being flexible and being comfortable with the unknown, then when I need to pivot quickly, I have what I need. That it isn't something that I've never done before. I may not have done it during the pandemic when I'm on set and then I have to leave set I may not have done those exact circumstances, but the essence of that, I have done many, 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 many times and trained for that moment.
I love that, Hillary, because there's this idea that somehow we We absolutely do train this, Christopher, and we need to know how to ramp up and switch off. We need to know how to do that in a moment's notice. So if we're dysregulated and feeling feelings super intensely, or after our audition, we went to a dark place, we need to be able to come back down and activate the parasympathetic nervous system and rest and digest and let our body know we're safe from all that hard work we just did. We also need to be able to get ramped up in different time increments. It's sort of like a situational football. If I have 5 minutes to get ready, what do I do? If I have an hour to get ready, what do I do? And having different protocols that we train, because each of us has been in a waiting room where we thought we were next and somebody jumped on a call and there's 15 minutes now. Every single person's been on set and they're like, we're about to go again, when all of a sudden a light bulb goes out and they have to hold production. So how do we deal with the unknown? Like Hillary said, how do we pivot? And how do we sustain? I think the idea of staying switched on the whole time sounds exhausting and leads to burnout. And I think we've found that that's not a best practice to only stay in that gear. It's something we can do for now, but let's get some more tools around that so we don't have to be exhausted at the end of that work day, work week, work month.
And going back to what you had asked, Christopher, about like, how will things be different for actors when this is over? I remember early in the chat, someone had said, well, now that it's not in person, it's hard for me because I don't have the experience of sitting in the waiting room and like getting my nervous system up to go in and perform. Well, all that is like, what has happened is that actor and many of us rely on being in the waiting room to naturally spark that. And so what we are going to have to learn to do is having a system in place of how to do. That is one of the things that has now gone from they do to we do.
Right. Yeah.
And so if you don't have a process of how do I get my body physiologically ready to perform, to flow, then yeah, doing a self-tape is going to be harder. I completely get that.
I should point out too that you guys are offering, if you go to CWB Live, and we'll keep putting those links in there for you, you can just click right in the search area. We have a mindset filter built right into it now. You click that, it'll take you right to this team right here. This group is offering sessions around audition coaching, on-set prep, like we've been talking about. Of course, the more expensive mindset curriculum and content, which I'm such a fan of, and I strongly encourage all of you to make that a part of your professional practice. You will take so much from it. But the one that I thought was really interesting that you guys are offering as well is post-audition and callback processing. And what you're sort of talking about a bit about that, Hillary and Joe, this idea that you do need to sort of unplug and de-wire yourself and get ready. And these potential hiatus breaks can create these disruptions to the momentum and the mindset you've worked so hard to build. And I think it's maybe unavoidable. And while it is, of course, a great call out, David, that's an inconvenience to the entire production, to an actor who I'm particularly fascinated by, I wonder if the goal is to find a way to, 2 weeks can be a hell of a time if you have already been in production, whether it's a day or 2 weeks, and you've gotten to a place with that character or that role, and now you have to hold back. And I am still trying to figure out how actors are going to do that. I think with time we'll hear some stories, but I think that everyone should take a look at those pieces there. I've got a question I want to ask from you. Someone in the crowd had put this in. Helena Kulasingham, I hope I got your name right. Helena Kulasingham. She wants to know, how should we prep our mindsets for deeply emotional crying scenes? And I've had this one come up a bunch of times whenever you guys are on, and it's one of the first ones, and you guys have a really interesting approach. Could any of you share your thoughts on that? How should Helena prep for that? Really heavy ones.
Well, there's that word again.
Should.
That's the first place we'd start, right? How might we would be the way we'd rephrase that question. How might we prepare ourselves? So
that's right. That's right.
And more importantly, how might the person asking the question prepare themselves? Because I think that's, again, it's different for every person. It's different depending on how you work. It's different depending on the on-ramp into that particular moment. It's different depending on the context of how it's being captured, right? Do you have to do it every night for 8 shows a week times 6 months? Definitely. Or do you have to do it? Yeah, right. So I think that's why should doesn't seem like a great beginning, and it's not to be nitpicky. It's just like, again, one size does not fit all. So
I would say, Helena, book a session with Eric. You definitely, it's probably, and all kidding aside, it's probably not simple to answer that one in a few phrases.
Well, but I think one of the things we could do is think about, how do I want to be in the moments that I'm calling into my life? If I want to be a series regular on a show, if I want to be number one on the call sheet, how do I want to be? And so in this case, how do I want to be getting the opportunity to be emotionally an open vessel for what's happening? And so I would say there's something to think about before and something to think about after. So before, I want to think about the qualities that are going to allow me to do my best work. Being present, having an absence of tension in my body and my voice, making sure that I practice self-care so that when I do hard things, I'm not operating from a depleted state. And on the flip side, I want to make sure when I'm done that I am really doing there's this amazing podcast that I think I want to drop in the chat right after this, which is about how to fully process emotions. There's a system, it's very clear, and we can learn how to process emotions. And so the idea of processing the emotions out of our body so it doesn't sit in our gallbladder, our liver, or our spleen is important. So it doesn't sit in our mind and we don't carry it back to parenting our child or to the next audition. And so if we can figure out how to afterwards fully process it out, whether we need to sob it out or cry it out or breathe it out or stretch it out or punch it out or run it out, make sure that you're complete so that you can rest and recover and go do another wave another time. I think the book is connected to a podcast that we wanted to share with this crowd. And how many of you out there have heard of Brené Brown? You know her podcast, Brené Brown? What is it? What is the name of her podcast? Is Untamed?
Yeah, we just dropped a link in there somewhere.
Unlocking Us.
Unlocking Us, that's the one. Glennon Doyle is the Untamed.
Yeah.
Unlocking Us. So Unlocking Us has a podcast from, I think, a few weeks back in October. And what I love about this group of people, this Brady Bunch grid of people you're seeing in front of you, is they're so amazing to learn from. And they share articles and podcasts that just inspire conversations, endless conversations. So one of them that was brought to our attention by two different people at the same moment was this Brené Brown podcast. And it was on burnout and completing the cycle of processing emotions. And they have a book, and then they talk about it in the podcast. So if you like the podcast, great, check out the book. And if you just want to hear it, maybe start with the podcast. But it's being dropped in the chat for you right now, so you can check it out. But that feels really important if we're going to do hard things, to make sure that we're present in our bodies, on our voice, and an open vessel ready to go. And then afterwards, we really prioritize self-care and recovery.
Another question here from Sandra Pascuzzi. I love this question.
Sandra?
She would like to know, do you need to be good at meditation to have a clear, strong mindset? Great question. I love that one.
It's still a struggle for me. So
What does good mean?
I knew you were going to say that.
But it's true.
I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, but Sandra, and I'm wondering this too. Should I first have experience in meditation before I try to tackle all the actor's mindset pieces? Does one begat the other?
Here's what we would say is, you can be terrible at meditation and still practice mindset. Because first of all, meditation, some people have a big allergy to that word. They either feel like it's soft and I need to have mental toughness. Athletes maybe don't like that word so much. Some of us might have a story around meditation. I'm not good at this. I have to have no thoughts. I can't sit for hours. I'm just no good at this. So the idea isn't that you try to do something that isn't working for you and torture yourself before you can. But the idea is to have deep focus. We do need to have deep focus, and we do need to be mindful and purposeful. And so there are ways to be mindful and purposeful with and without meditation. Also, there's different types of meditation. Washing dishes can be a meditation. Jogging, ecstatic dance, making love, eating a meal and savoring it can be meditative. So I think the idea is we don't have to sit in lotus, even though what a great practice. But just know that yoga and the science of yoga, it's thousands of years old, and there's 8 limbs to it And the 8 limbs, like stretching and what we eat and how we breathe, is designed to help us sit longer. That's the whole point of yoga, is so we can sit and hear clearly. So it can take time and a practice. There are modern apps that are so useful and helpful. But what we do say at Mindset is, it is no longer an option for us to have mindfulness training. So being mindful in some capacity, we have to be aware in order to do our best work, in order to flow, in order to adjust. We have to be aware. So I think that's a distinction we would make specifically to meditation.
Anything to add, team? That's a great answer, Joe. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think just to piggyback on that, I think that meditation, one way in which you can train being mindful. And what is being mindful? Being present. I think that every actor, what they are searching for is they'll do a take or they'll do a scene and they'll be like, oh my God, I was so present in that. I was so present. I felt lost. I felt connected. I was so present. And I hear in my scene study classes, when that happens, the actors, they feel that it's just this, like, they lucked out this time. It happened to have been like God shone down on them this time and they were able to be connected. That's not magic, what's happening. Like, you can train that. If you are training yourself to be present in other parts of your life, then you have more practice at it. Because very few actors are practicing all the time. Or if you look at any other, a mechanic, an architect, or whatever, like, they're going to work every day from 8 to 5 days a week for the next 50 years, right? Actors don't have that. The actor whoever's Meryl Streep doesn't have that. Like, who works more than whoever that person is, they don't have that kind of practice. So if you can practice that mindfulness, that being present in the moment, right where your feet are, if you can practice that in other ways, then it's going to be more accessible to you when you are in a scene.
And this connects to the thing you asked at the very beginning, Christopher, which is the constant learning. Because if we're constantly engaging with new stuff, we're being forced to be present with new information and new skill sets and new ways of thinking about things. And I think it's why we crave it so much, because it activates us to learn new stuff and to have new experiences. So I think that hunger for constant learning is connected to this idea of, when I'm in something new, I have to be present, because there feels like there's risk, or it feels like it's the edge of my experience. And we crave that because it's a super high value in our art. So I see a connection between those two things.
100%. To that point too, Warren Ellis wrote in and wanted to know, how can I book a session, or at least talk to someone to determine, which session is right for me, or which will work for me. And I wanted to mention too that if you visit David's page, he has a consult option, and you can have a conversation with David, and he can help you guys work and figure some of those pieces out, and which mindset coach might be best suited for what you might want to do. So absolutely make a point of sitting down if you're not sure yet with David, because there is so much to that. And some of these things, every actor needs to work on something different. And I really think that it's great you guys have structured the experience on CWB Live that way. I think it's going to look really great. I've got another one here from Kiru. Kiru says, isn't acting subjective? Is there a formula on how to act different for the genre? And that's what we should all be following? I had a teacher who directed my version of a scene completely, but they had a way of doing it of what is right and what is wrong. Kiru, I told you I'm going to read you that question exactly the way he wrote it, and I'm not even 100% sure how that comes out. I think, though, acting is subjective. What do you guys think?
100%.
Yeah.
Isn't there a right way though to do the character as it's written? Didn't the writer of the script have something in mind about how to do it? Like, how, I think a lot of questions are coming in here too about actors wanting to take liberties and wanting to go down different directions. We have another question here from someone going, when do I know I can really take the character in a different place? In particular, as it relates to the audition, should I stick to that script, or do you help advise, no, take it make it your own. That's the whole way to win the audition. You must get that question a lot, guys.
We do. Eric,
Yeah. There's like several things in there that I think are interesting to unpack. One is there a right way? No. Is there a respectful way? Yes. Is there,
what is the phrase you love? You can't get it, but you can get it.
oh yeah. You can't get, this is from Shannon Cochran, brilliant teacher and actor. You can't get it wrong, but you can get it boring. So that is where,
Yeah.
that's one that I love. And boring for yourself, I think, is where I connect with that idea, right? So I've got to set up what I want to do. That's getting it right. Going in the room and seeking to do what you're seeking to do and collaborating with that writer to the best of your ability in that moment. That's, to me, what getting it right is. But look, if the words were enough, it'd be a book, but it's not. It's a script. It needs you. So you got to figure out what you're going to do with those words.
I like that. I like that. When you're working with the actors that you coach, the pre-audition, I would think that's an opportunity where, you know, have you ever had to say to them, hang on here, I'm strongly advising you not to go down in this direction. What I'm seeing from the sides, what I'm seeing from all these notes is something like this. Like, do you find that actors now more than ever, because there's so much more competition, there's this overwhelming need to really stand out and leave your mark on that 2 minutes you're in the room? And is that causing people to make these really bold and unnecessary choices? Are you encountering that much in the coaching you guys are doing week to week?
I really want to jump in here on that word competition, because I think what you're saying there is the word competition. What I'm hearing behind that is scarcity. And so the thing is that when we get into a threat state brain, we don't have our best creativity and we don't bring forth our best work. And the origins of competition are interesting, because Christopher, would you say that when you think about competition, aren't you normally thinking about it as who wins, who loses?
Yeah.
Isn't that how so the French definition of competition has to do with besting your opponent. And it feeds into this idea that there's limited resources and that there's a scarcity model for us, versus competition, the Latin definition of competition, where it originated and what the Olympics came out of, is the concept of striving together toward a common goal. Now, if we can reframe competition for ourselves, then the people in the other audition room, they become people we're striving with, not against. Everything becomes something we're striving with. We're striving with the writer and collaborating with them the moment we read their script. We're striving with the casting director to bring out a take we can send along as a tool. We're collaborating with the director to bring to life the story in different options so that the editor can collaborate and cut together a great piece. And so I think this idea here is like, when we think about competition and limited resources, it changes how we feel about everything and everybody and how precious we are with the takes that we're doing. And so I guess what we're saying is like, let's maybe shift that conversation. And as far as the essence goes, there is absolutely no way that Eric, David, Samantha, and Hillary and I can all do the same words the exact same way. But we can get close. We can get close by imagining the right way, imagining the way they want it, imagining a two-dimensional version of a character or a type, a Johnny Depp type or whatever. And so if we try to do an impression or an idea or something two-dimensional or try to think about what they want, we're more likely to all do a variant on the same audition. But if we get interested and curious, our essence can't help but make us unique and different and stand out. It's impossible. And it's hard to trust that, but it's impossible.
Can I just say, Joe, what is that thing you love to say about Amy Adams? What Amy Adams longs for in an audition?
Yeah, so the thing she doesn't long for is to go in and be interesting and prove herself and get the job, because those are out of her control. But what she does get interested in is learning one thing about her character. She wants to go in and spend the 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, and she wants to learn something about the character in the process. So it's like inviting people to watch her swim in her pool, and she is focused on learning and growth. It takes pressure out of it. It reframes the experience, and it's an invitation for a person who's a decider to look and say, that's a process I want to collaborate with, versus that's a finished result that I'm stamping approval on.
I just think it's so great because something that's present in a lot of the questions we ask, like, is my teacher right or am I right? Is the director right or am I right? This binary and this idea that there's a right, it doesn't set us up to do our job very well. Because even if I get it right and I book the job, well, now I'm on set and I'm going to get some notes, but now I'm rigid because I've been practicing getting it right, which is a rigid idea. But if I can borrow something from Amy Adams and just fill my curiosity to the brim, then I'm always open and I'm priming myself to do the job I'm hired to do. Because on film, we rehearsed in front of the camera. We don't have 6 weeks of rehearsal to get it right. You know, and even then, we won't talk about that. But let's talk about on film, where I'm showing up and rehearsing, trying things on. If I need to get it right the night before in my room, I'm not going to be able to do my job very well on the day. So let's not even prime for that. Let's prime for curiosity. So if on the day the director says, you know what, that's not even your sister, that's actually your mother. And you're like, oh, I read the script entirely wrong. It's exciting. And we get to go for that ride instead of, oh no, I got it wrong.
And by the way, if you're going to be an actor for the next 60 years, like, what's more fun? Showing up to work every day and looking to everyone else to go, is it enough? Is it right? What's happening? Or is it more fun and more fulfilling to be in your own pool and be like, ooh, what's this? Like, what's more fun? Like, I think most of us got into acting because in some way, shape, or form, we didn't want to grow up. We wanted to play for the rest of our lives.
Sure. Right.
Joe and I were just talking to an actor friend who was auditioning for a part, and the description was handsome leading man, you know, like he's supposed to be having the affair with the real lead's wife. Like he's, you know, chiseled, six-pack. And our friend was like, I don't even know, this is just not who I am. And he said, you know, I kind of struggle with this. Do I go in and just pretend to be this person that I think that they're looking for? And he was like, all I can do is just go in and do the best me that I can do. And he completely changed the director's mind and was cast, because it wasn't about that the director going, I need this person he had all the qualities that this leading man's wife would fall in love with. He was charming and he was funny and he was great. He just didn't look like what they originally thought.
There's anything else to add to that? I love you guys. I mean, I love what you're saying there. And I want for the audience to hear from all of you if possible, because I would love for them to identify which of you might be in line with them to work with. Any other thoughts on that before we move on?
There was something in that question about when you, and I can't remember where it was, but there was something about like when you can start giving yourself permission that I heard. And I think that's, we talk a lot about the opportunity as an invitation, right? So you're being invited to come collaborate, or you're being invited to bring your ideas in the room, or you're being invited to come work for a few weeks or 6 months. And you can start thinking about the party the minute the invitation comes in the mail, right? You can start being in that party. You are now a guest at that party, and it's not about waiting till you get there to have the permission to lean into your collaborative spirit. So I don't remember what part of that question pinged me on that, but I thought it was something worth talking about, which is the minute it begins is when you can start leaning into what am I bringing to the party.
And Christopher, because I know that, you know, we're trying something out here that we're all really excited about, which is to connect to this group of people that keep showing up to these amazing Q&As and asking such important and vulnerable and hard questions. If I may, I would like to take a tiny chunk of time and shine a light on who these people are and why I think we love them.
I would love you to. I was just going to say, Joe, what a great way to cap it. Please go right ahead. I'd love you to.
So there's a few things here. The first is like, when Hillary and I were paired together to build something together, it was like kismet. I am so appreciative to know an artist who's been working since she was like 13 years old. She practices growth mindset with her kids on a daily basis, and she prioritizes self-care. She walks the walk, and Hillary cares. People that seek her out in her classes work with her for years because they know how fortunate they are to have that connection and the trust that she's built. And she will love you hard, and then she'll tell you the truth. So be ready.
Yeah, she will.
Eric created a comedy program at one of the top studios in Hollywood, Warner Laughlin Studios, where a lot of us were connected. Big universities seek him out to help them consider what comedy looks like now and in the future. He is a sought after director through the Lincoln Center Lab in New York City. He bridges worlds, science and improv, performance and being a shy like clothing designer, mindset and acting. He is brilliant as a director, and he's a joy to work with. He can see the big picture. He embodies additive collaboration. He yes ands life, art, and teaching. Samantha has such an incredible journey as an actor and so many different styles that she has explored from here to London and back. She's a producer as well as a creative. And so she hears things from other perspectives, other producers, casting directors, showrunners, big agencies. She really has her finger on the pulse of what's happening on there and what's next. And she's co-running our on-camera department. And she is a sought after coach amongst our students for taping auditions because they feel really seen and safe. Her secret gift is that she's like a nurturing mom encourager to everyone in her orbit. She loves them up. And David has been also working since he was a child actor. He's someone that people appreciate so deeply for his care. And his training as a Meisner teacher and his like lonely work practices help him do moment to moment work and inspire it in others. He has such deep listening and deep empathy. He feels things so deeply, and he's a guide for so many communities of artists in Toronto and beyond, and for me personally. And I just want to say, as a group, there's a few things I'm really excited about and proud of in case you don't know anything about us. Like, we're all working by day and then we teach at night. We are not 40 years removed from this industry. And we are constantly learning from each other. We're deep listeners. We don't rest on our laurels. So it's not like we're like, well, figure that out. Let's just reiterate that all the time. We want to be better, and we really want those around us to succeed. So thanks for indulging me to be able to say that.
Oh, no,
I love these humans so much, and I want people to know why we love them in-house.
I would say there are so many great questions in here, Joe, but I've chosen to just say, guys, book a session or talk to David, because these are big, meaty things that you deserve a real coach and not just a 2-minute response as we move through. And so much of what you guys have done over the months with us is part of a bigger piece that I've always wanted to encourage actors to really get involved with the mindset. So thank you for doing that. And I would say one last time, Emily.
Christopher, I'm so sorry. The only thing is, we didn't say anything about Joe, if I may.
Right.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to say that for all of the panelists here, when I am looking to coach with someone, it's these people right here. So it's who I go to. Eric and I have had many cross-country coachings online to help me with stuff. Joe, as you know, Joe and I started this company together 3 years ago. But I want to be very clear that the heart and the engine of this company is Joe. It was his inception, and really just the meeting of so much of his background and what he has done throughout his many careers that led him to this point. And I happen to be at the right place and the right time. And Joe and I teach really well together. So it was a perfect fit for the two of us. Joe is, talk about walking the walk. He is constantly, through example, me to learn more, to do more, to take care of myself, to be present, to have compassion for myself, and through his example. And I would say this, even if he wasn't one of my best friends, even if we just had a working relationship. And I have seen him in workshops, and someone will throw down a gauntlet of a question, and I'm going, wow, I'm still in the process of how do I unwrap this? And Joe just goes. And it's like I learned that we're done with the question. I'm like, oh wow, I just had an aha from that. So I think he is just the I don't want to say the king of mindset, because I think we are all on the journey. None of us are perfect at it. We really make sure one of the
King Arthur of a
our
round
company.
table, if you will.
Maybe a jester. I'm like a jester
Perhaps,
that entertains the court.
Yes. But he is really somebody that I think we all look up to and admire, as far as personally, but also
that includes me too, Hillary. And I appreciate you saying that. And I know I don't think anyone has interviewed the mindset team more than me. Right? Tell me I have interviewed 100%. You guys the most. So I feel with confidence I can say, if any of you are thinking about it, you know, all of you as working actors know the value of coaching. But if you're not sure which coach you want to work with, David would love to help you. Click that link. If you're not sure about mindset, send me a note on Instagram. I want you to know that we as an organization have never gotten behind another group so much, because we have never really believed in something so strongly. And you know what this show is all about is what's good for actors. It's what we're all about. And that's why we're always happy to bring these guys to you. And I'm so proud that you guys are part of CWB Live now. That just for me and Susan and the whole organization has really helped. And we've got great coaches on CWB Live, and you guys are now part of that incredible group. So look around, talk to the mindset coaches, book a session. They're going to help you make 2021 a really breakthrough year. I promise you that. And let me know what you think on Instagram. We've put all the stuff there. We've run a little late, but I thank you so much for your time. Hillary, Eric, David, Samantha, Joe, we think the world of you guys, and I hope we'll talk to you again early in the new year, okay?
Thank you, brother. Much love to you and your family.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You too, guys. We'll catch you soon. And drop us a note there. I'll give you another minute in the chat log. Let us know what you think. We're going to send the comments to Joe and the Mindset team when the show is done. Let us know it's working. Drop me a note on Instagram or any of the coaches. I love to reply on video. I always do. We want to hear the good and the bad. Help us make it great. And good luck. I'm really excited to hear about your experiences working with the Mindset team, and when you get to finally do something that I know is going to really just take your acting to the next level. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you very much, guys. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you tomorrow on The Working Actor. Have a good one.
Bye for now.
Bye, y'all. Be well.
Thanks, guys.